Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking ... Books. The dots are there partially because it's exciting. We always like a good pause, don't we?
Indeed, yes.
Also for copyright reasons, because apparently there's like a million other shows called Talking Books.
Right.
I didn't really research it very well.
No, well,
Simplicity. It just sounded good.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm Neil Gardner. He's the boss. He's Darwin. And welcome back to Ladbroke Audio, the world of fabulous audiobooks. And today I'm with another exciting guest. It's the one and only Sir Dan of Starkey.
Hello.
Yeah, see, there he is, over there. It's looking good already. And we recorded many an audiobook together.
Yes,
many,
we've done, over the last few years.
Yes. Quite a lot of them Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But we've also done some, what would you call Carnacki?
Yes, I think that was the first one I did here, possibly.
I think it might have been.
Yes, it was Carnacki the Ghost Finder.
Yeah.
Which is...
Victorian...
Edwardian.
Oh, Edwardian. Sorry, yes, Edwardian...
It's sort of Sherlock Holmes meets M.R. James meets Scooby-Doo in some cases.
Yeah.
It's a kind of combination.
Imagine if Carnacki actually had a talking dog assistant. That's our next pitch, Big Finish.
Yes. Reverent to the source material.
Actually, we were talking just the other day about what you could now do with Carnacki as a character.
Yes.
Because what we did was just it's you, single voice reading.
Yeah. A
little bit of music in there, but basically it's an audiobook.
Yeah.
Which actually was quite rare for Big Finish at the time. Normally they're full cast. How did you find that out of interest?
Great. I mean, it's interesting because I think I'd done a couple of straight reads before. But I think the language of it is very different as well, because I think as we found when we were doing it, it's obviously Edwardian English, and the first story that he wrote, he clearly didn't have enough money for a proper editor.
Yes.
So there was some very, very, very long sentences.
Very long.
And then I think he clearly made enough money to actually get an editor for the second one, or the magazine that it was published in. I did a better job of it.
Gave him a big box of punctuation.
And and so that was so much easier to actually sort of read out. But it's I remember very long sentences. And
they're also, interesting, aren't they? Yeah, Carnacki. I'm not sure how many people come across them. We were doing them about the same time as I had been pitching to Audible the idea of the Max Carados tales.
Okay, it was the same kind of period.
Yeah, exactly. And we'd done them about a year or so earlier with Arthur Darvill for 4 Extra.
Right.
It's just 5 of them as a kind of short series for over 1 week. But then Audible were looking for something to do with Stephen Fry.
Yes.
And so we then did the full series of that. And it was so interesting having what we did with him being very straight detective, but the similar style of writing.
Yes.
And then what we're doing with you, with Carnacki, which was detective with ghosts. I don't want to give it away.
Yes.
A little bit, in case you might not have heard. Look up
Carnacki
the Ghost Finder.
By William Hope Hodgson.
Available via Big Finish and directed by Scott Hancock.
Yes.
And very nicely done. Brilliant recording and editing, I have to say.
Cracking editing, cracking sound design. Yes.
But it's really worth interest.
It's nice. And one thing which is quite interesting, because even though it's sort of quite early, he alludes to a lot of adventures that we that we don't see. So he does kind of create a little universe of it right from the very first story.
Yes, it's never it's never a series of adventures. You're always just dropping into another moment within his expanded life.
Yes, yeah. So it's that kind of thing. It does invite you into this quite realised sort of little world.
I do think you could do with Carnacki what Big Finish did with Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
Kind of serialise and go into all these different adventures he had.
Yes.
So maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
You could come back and be an
to
audio drama Carnacki.
Yes, a bit of Carnacki. Actually, I did a sort of I do this event occasionally called the London Improvathon.
Improvathon.
Yes, it's like an epic improvised play that lasts 50 hours. So it takes place over the course of a weekend. And so the first time I did the full 50 hours, the theme of this play was sort of like the Orient Express. So there was lots of detectives on a train going to a detective convention in Istanbul. So we had had Sherlock Holmes there, obviously. Sort of like I think Bruce Wayne and his butler, who hadn't yet become Batman. So the whole thing, and I played Carnacki for the whole thing of that. Or a version of Carnacki, a slightly comedy version of it, but yeah, so that was fun.
So who did do it in the end then? The train driver. He's the only one.
Obviously, after being awake for 50 hours, then it's like it went into slightly the realms of the surreal. But
we all did it.
Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. So let's dig a little bit into your audio experiences, your audio world. Not just audiobooks and straight reads. You've done quite a lot of audio drama, haven't you?
Yes. I was I suppose my first experience of it. I was at drama school and I did the Colton Hobbs competition, which I think Lisa Bauman might have talked about. Which is like a bursary that you get put up for, nominated for by your drama school, and then they have a team, and you go in to. It was Bush House then, but I think it would be good old Bush House.
We miss it.
But or Broadcasting House, and then you prepare sort of sort of scenes, with a sort of duologues, then a group scene, and then individual bits of sight reading as well.
And you're working with the existing BBC rep team,
yes, and it's like there's judges there and so like the technicians and stuff. And then out of that, I think it changes slightly every year, but I think there were like 4 people in my year who the main prize was kind of like a 6-month contract in the rep as soon as you graduated.
Wow.
And I got the runners up on that.
Making the tea for the rep.
Making the tea for the rep. I got to do one play with for the BBC, but that meant I was kind of on their radar.
Yes, yeah.
So I got to do another one about a month or so later, which is nice. So another producer who knew me through that, and then about 18 months later, so I was just out of drama school 18 months. Then they invited me onto the rep proper. So it was like a 3-month rolling contract, so I ended up doing 9 months on the rep.
So that's a heck of a lot of afternoon plays.
Yeah, afternoon plays, Radio 3 plays, Woman's Hour.
Just a bit of everything.
Also readings as well. Also things like the Today programme.
Okay.
So they had opened the archive, and there was stuff about the Suez Crisis. So I played Anthony Eden on the Today programme.
Wow!
So all these bits of recording and stuff, and there was some grim thing about knife crime, and reading lots of these articles for a current affairs programme.
So you basically voice for hire within the department for 3 months.
You're effectively free.
Interesting. It always used to be one of my favourite things making the longer documentary series as an indie for the Beeb. Was the fact we could get actors in to do dramatic readings. And to kind of juice it up a little bit. It was always quite a lot of fun doing that stuff.
And it's amazing just the breadth of material they cover out of it, and so things that you wouldn't find yourself doing. There's a brilliant programme which was the history of the world in 50 objects. I think was it.
Oh yes.
Or it might have been the precursor to that. I can't remember. I remember sort of reading this thing about a Mexican corn god from about 2,000 years ago or something like that, and it's just really interesting stuff. So like and another one was letters from notable letters from prime ministers, and there was one about Lord North with George III, and it's all the stuff about sort of like losing the colonies in America. And this guy going, please let me resign. This is awful. I just don't want to be prime minister anymore. And George III having none of it. No, but so it was a lovely breadth of material, and it was absolutely just going in and doing that every day. Well, working with very experienced actors as well.
Yes,
so, like,
of course.
People you recognise off telly and stuff.
Yeah, that's always
but
good.
sort of having that every day just meant that was such a brilliant grounding in microphone technique and that whole sort of thing. It becomes second nature.
And do you find that not necessarily, in your case, it is a background in audio drama, but having some audio drama within your experience helps with straight voice narration?
Definitely, yes. I mean, I always think of it like, especially with books with, some of the Doctor Who's that we've done. Yeah. It's kind of it's a cast of 50 or something like that if you go through it, because they're action adventure series. Yeah, and
they're always throwing new characters in, new monsters, new bad guys.
And then I always think of it, I've got to cast that because I've got to make sure it's ultimately about telling a story as well as you possibly can.
Well, let's talk about casting very quickly because that's really interesting because it's something that I've not covered yet on the show. How much is casting, and particularly something like Who, when it's a licensed property? Yes. How much freedom do you have with your level of casting as the narrator? Do you get instruction from the BBC?
No, not especially. I think because I was a huge Doctor Who fan when I was a kid, and I grew up reading the Target novels, and I had like VHS videos and that sort of thing. So I absorbed a huge quantity of that material. Yeah. So when I come to do this, it's kind of like this is the sort of thing I did when I was about 10. With a tape player, reading sort of stuff out in a book.
So everyone in New Who seems to have this story. We've all grown up with it then going out of our lives, and then suddenly it's back and it's like, oh my God, all those things we dreamed about.
And equally, it's wider than that. I remember when I was a kid when I got a tape player for Christmas, a tape deck. Oh, wow. And then sort of like just reading out bits of Tintin and Asterix and making my own little shouting sound effects in the background as well. So it was clearly something that sort of... It's nice to get paid for the things that you you enjoyed doing when you were a kid.
So over time you've kind of built up a casting list in your head of voices. Yeah. Because I know what's fascinating with you when I work with you is that you always come in and your list of character voices is actually generally linked to actors. Not always, but you do have it to one side.
A quality that I find. I find myself a voice comes out and I go, oh, okay, who's that?
How do you describe that?
Yeah, that's not quite Brian Blessed, or it's David Collins or something. Yeah, especially with some of the Doctor Who ones that we've done because they are clearly aping a period of like 1970s Doctor Who. There's a certain repertory company of actors that you recognise with those kind of voices.
But you can't just be straight RP because you've got to give it flavor. And that's the thing with single voice is that. With some audiobooks, single voice stuff, actually we try to pull back characterisation, but with the Who stuff, it's actually quite a freeing experience.
And it is,
I find.
and as with lots of actors who find who sort of like guest in the program, it's such a broad canvas to actually sort of like play on as well. The stakes are huge. The universe can be destroyed and that sort of thing. So you can have fun with it, and why shouldn't you? It's kind of
no, absolutely. And today we finally got to live out one of my dreams of getting a proper Brummy accent into a Doctor Who audiobook. I've been wanting this for years.
A nice Brummy alien who's great.
But genuinely, it makes sense. We're not just forcing it.
No.
And he's a lovely character.
Yes.
He's a side character, but he's a lovely little character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's
like that.
I think it's completely legitimate as well.
Well, it's canon now.
It's absolutely canonical.
Birmingham exists in Doctor Who.
All planets have got a Birmingham. Yeah.
We're going to get in so much trouble.
Yes.
So on with the ideas of casting. So, for example, with Who.
Yes.
Obviously, you're also replicating real characters, real people.
Yes.
If it's one of the older books or if it's based on one of the older Doctors. I know one of the reasons why we come back to use you time and time again is that you're not just a great actor, but you're a great mimic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you like impersonator, but I think your mimic works very well. How do you feel about doing that and actually trying to be someone who exists already?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's like I would freely admit that it's like when I did Tom Baker, then it's like probably what I did was influenced by John Culshaw's sterling work. But also I have done big finishes with Tom as well, so I've been able to hear his speech patterns in repose as well as the Doctor. So
have you done your Tom for Tom and got his sign off?
No, I haven't. I wouldn't presume. But likewise, I did a couple of John Pertwee ones as well.
Yes.
And again, that's a slightly different quality. And again, I can't get it exactly, but there's a certain quality to it. You have that slight lisp, and it's.
But that's what I was going to ask about doing that, which is, unless you're the lovely John Coleshaw, who does come in and do the audiobooks here, and it's an absolute joy every time. And that's his profession, to be as close as he can get. Yeah. But for yourself as an actor, do you feel a stress to try and get it as perfect as possible, or are you quite happy that
definitely
we're not told to do it? We're told to actually just make sure it sounds like the right Doctor.
To be honest, that is my instinct to do that. So I did. I mean, when actually the first one time I did Peter Capaldi, I did spend quite a lot of time looking at the thick of it and looking at things like that. Because it might have been before his episodes had actually been broadcast.
I think it was, because we did the first 3 books here. Yeah. We had you, Colin McFarlane. I've forgotten the third person.
Yeah.
Sorry. And yes, it was about a month before the show aired, and we had no access to anything.
Script.
Yes.
Yes, Justin Richards' silhouette. Yeah.
And we none of us had any access to. So it was like a matter of how thick of it do we go?
Yeah.
None of us knew, and it was fascinating.
And I think because I'd filmed sort of Peter's first episode.
Oh yes,
so I knew sort of what he was doing. So
that's right.
Kind of,
I remember that. I remember asking if we could do you first, because then I could ask you.
Yes.
So then I could tell the other readers, and of course it didn't work out that way just because of scheduling. So I think actually lovely Colin came in to do the first one, and I listened back to it the other week, and it's a beautiful job by Colin, as you'd imagine, but it's a very different version of the 12th Doctor. Yeah. So I think we'll accept that one's from much further into his timeline.
Right.
He's not quite as whispery and quiet as he was in those first few episodes.
Right. Okay.
Got a bit of anger to him.
Yes.
But it's interesting. I love your third Doctor. I think it's probably the best third Doctor I've heard, and because as you say, you don't do a straight copy, but you do have all of his mannerisms, and I think that ego that he had so beautifully.
And listen to me, Joe. I mean, because I'm sitting in the booth as well, and it's not radio drama, but I do find myself, you do adopt a physicality, especially, the bits where the Doctor's getting into it in technobabble and that sort of thing. He is an enthusiastic character quite a lot of the time, so you do find yourself doing something. Obviously not so much so it can be audible when you're wearing a loud shirt that rustles. But
therein does lie a problem. It's one of the things I find directing, not just you, but everyone, when we're doing those sort of characters, particularly the Doctors, which is to try and actually get you to slow back down again.
Yes.
Because to be the Doctor, you've got to be pacey and fast, particularly the more modern Doctors, who have all been very bouncy. Yeah. It's a very modern style of acting, I suppose, for television. It's less theatre, more telly. Yeah. And so it's a note I give to everyone, which is a little bit less, just so we can actually really hit those words and those beats, which are so important to understand what the Doctor's going on about half the time.
And that was one, because one of the John Pertwee ones that we did was called A Morality Tale.
Yes.
Which was a BBC Books one, which I think had originally been written when the programme wasn't on screen.
That's right.
So it was very dark. It was basically Doctor Who meets a Long Good Friday. and sort of it was that was quite interesting because
very dark. Actually,
it was very dark. Yeah, it was big, huge body count, but based on real historical events about
World War II.
No, it was just after World War II. It was about 1952.
It was the smog.
The smog of London that killed about 1,000 odd people because it was kind of a. But it was a really sort of like good bit of writing and very powerful. But
great book.
I think because it was written when Doctor Who wasn't on screen, it could be more adult.
Yes.
And I think it consciously was that. But it was interesting as well because it posed a conundrum, and it was set in Shoreditch. It's like in about 1952, 53.
Yeah, we had some East End mobsters, didn't we?
East End mobsters, yeah. So basically, everyone's from the same place. Everyone's a similar age. They're of a similar class.
That's right, yeah.
There are some female characters, but otherwise going, right, how do I tell the story? How do I differentiate that?
Yes.
So the only way I could go through it was like, okay, that is obviously based on Bob Hoskins from The Long Good Friday. So you've got a bit of Bob Hoskins there.
That's right, yeah.
And then it's like, I'll make him Michael Caine.
Yeah.
It's like a bit of Harry Palmer.
Different levels of this to this to this to this.
And then other things like, I've got Bernard Breslau because he's sort of a big lunk. So there were all those kinds of things to sort of differentiate it. And it's like, without making it sort of like too pantomime, but sort of like having those kind of, just a different vocal quality that enables you to differentiate characters speaking to each other.
Yeah, and that's of course where the prep work comes in.
Yes.
So for anyone who's getting ready to do their first audiobook, I bang on about prep endlessly. I know it probably annoys people, but really those sort of decisions are where your prep work really comes into its own. Yeah. Sitting there working out your voices, colouring up your script.
Yes,
all those
multicoloured script, Technicolor Dream scripts.
They are mad.
Yes,
some scripts, some less so. But
and I think everyone's got their own sort of system and their own sort of like weird diacritics that they've sort of got all over the page. But I mean, with the Doctor Who sort of ones that I've done the majority of, the language is it's relatively straightforward because they tend to be sort of action adventure stories with a good plot, and it's like thumps along.
Yes,
with Carnacki, the language was much more wrought in some places, and it's an Edwardian chap who's really sort of playing with the abnatural vocabulary. They're really sort of like quite purple proses. Purple proses, purple prose passages. Purple prosy passages.
Yeah. No, that was interesting. So away from Who, do you have any particular sort of genres or areas you'd really like to get into doing single voice audiobook work for?
Oh gosh, I do love sort of like M.R. James and sort of like that kind of world, and it's like the weird tales and stuff, which I imagine are quite sewn up because they're quite popular.
There's always room for more versions.
Yeah. And I do read, in terms of genre stuff, I do read science fiction as well.
Yeah.
I like a bit of J.G. Ballard, but it does give me weird dreams.
It's very odd stuff.
I tell you this thing, I read a couple of J.G. Ballards in like closer, and I go, I like this, and then I like have really sort of like strange, vivid dreams about it. And then okay, I'll just give it a bit of a rest.
He's like the late night cheese of reading.
Yes, I think very
And audio drama is another area, as you say, that you've done a lot. You've done radio, but of course you work with Big Finish and others on traditional...
all the full cast stuff. The Avengers. I've written a little bit for Big Finish as well.
Well, that's going to ask. I mean, like pretty much everyone who's been on the show so far, you're a jack of many trades. So you've moved across into writing and writing full cast dramas. How did that come about, and how did you find the experience?
I think it's something because I've become part of the sort of Big Finish sort of rep company as well.
I think they like to be called a family now.
The family.
They're lovely.
Which is great because it's such a lovely job, and also because I sort of turned up and I sort of like obviously being on their radar from. That was it. I first met Nick Briggs and Barnaby Edwards.
Around a cassette recorder in the front room?
No. I was actually...
Not that far back.
It was backstage at the first Doctor Who prom in 2008, and I was in my full Sontaran outfit.
Oh, you were completely
I was like, hello, can I be on Big Finish? And I went, Jesus, okay. So it's slightly imposing having that massive head on. And so
I'm liking the idea of two Daleks being scared by one Sontaran. This is brilliant.
But they were outside their shells, you see. They were just kind of...
they're lovely anyway.
Looking normal, yes. But so that was... So I announced myself then, but then when I started doing it, then they could tell I had some experience doing audio drama before, and also I could do lots of voices. That's useful.
So you weren't just going in to be Sontarans. You were very quickly rolling into other characters.
Multiple things like that as well. And then you actually know a bit about Doctor Who because I was obsessed about it.
I can imagine
when I was 11. So that always helps. And then it wasn't just Doctor Who. I did one of their Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Titles, and then also the Avengers. I got involved in the Avengers.
So this is not the modern Avengers.
Not the modern Avengers.
Not you weren't Thor.
No, I wasn't Thor. No, easy or Loki.
I missed an opportunity there. Yes. So this is 1960s.
Yes.
Mr. I forget the name.
Jonathan Steed.
Steed and Peele.
Steed and Peele.
Yes.
It was actually because the first license they got was to do the episodes that are no longer in the archive. So it's the first series of the Avengers, which is Steed and Dr. Keel, where it was a vehicle for Ian Hendry, who had a big hit on ITV called Police Surgeon. And then it's like a drama about this kind of like this doctor whose fiancée gets killed and goes off the criminal underworld. Wow. And then Steed has his sidekick. And all these, because it's made about 1960, and there's only about 2 and a bit episodes, so like extant. One of which was only discovered once Big Finish had actually released an audio version of it.
So they've gone back to
and they've gone back to the original scripts, the shooting scripts, and then done the audio versions of them.
Wow!
And I think there's the audio scripts there. In some of them, there's more material than there is. It's interesting because you learn about the technicalities of 3-camera TV in that time.
Yes,
it didn't go out completely live, but they had to.
It was quite a theatrical,
very
recording,
theatrical,
wasn't it? Yeah.
And the technicalities of it as well. You can't have a scene, just because I wrote one of these in these episodes, which had literally a synopsis based on something that Patrick Macnee reminisced about in a convention in about 1980.
Wow!
A couple of still photographs. And so like a TV Times listing with a cast list. So you've got really it's amazing the archaeology, the fan archaeology of these things.
Yeah, the research.
So you're going to set parameters to actually sort of work out, sort of like, here's what you do with this.
Brilliant.
But also, chatting to John Dorney, who is the script editor there, who's a wonderful sort of like script editor, and also and a good voice actor as well.
Yeah, and very strong actor.
And a sterling chap as well.
John, you're great at everything.
There's lots of things which you wouldn't necessarily think of, but because they've got... you couldn't have a scene which ends up, right, now I'm going to go outside, and now I'll meet you at the... You can't just cut in between 2 scenes where going, OK, now we'll go to the surgery. Because they couldn't get there, because physically they would have to cut between another camera and another set, and then they would have to go around the other set, change costumes, and then go in there. So there's got to be a little bit of...
You need a
little
scene to help them do the bit. Yeah.
You know, where they have some character actors, the janitors, like having some innocuous conversations, like doing that. So it's interesting. And likewise, the filmed inserts as well with scenes, because they would have the stuff in studio that's happening on 3 cameras. Yeah. And then you'd have something shot on film for which there's no script, because it's a separate thing which they would shoot. Wow. I think, I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but sort of... they shot quite a lot of that silently and then put a soundtrack afterwards. Okay. So they shoot on film exteriors silently, even if it's a dialogue scene, and then do it all in ADR later on.
That makes sense.
And then by the time that's run, then the person scarpered over there, put sort of like put the bandages on because they've just been blown up at the end of the previous scene, and there's a hospital bed, and they've got everyone standing around going, "Oh no, this is terrible." So it's but then that's got to be reflected in the dramaturgy of what you construct.
Yes. So even though in audio and it's all pre-recorded, it doesn't matter any of that in terms of technically recording it that way. But you want to replicate the feel of it.
Yes, the feel of it, and there's a rhythm to it, and a sort of
It's similar to how when they brought back Survivors, what the note I got as because I did the sound design the first 2 series of that was it has to be uber realistic down to exactly what would happen in the year. That's like 75 or 76
because
or
it is nostalgia.
And, so but also it had been filmed in a very specific way. So the director, Ken, had a very specific way of wanting the audio cut. So scenes would he'd want sound in a single scene where normally maybe you're just inside a car listening to people chat and then they get out and walk away. You'd actually want to start outside the car, then move into the car, and then as the doors open, move with one person, then cut the scene. Again, 3-camera treatment or 2-camera treatment because it's external. And that was a real challenge for me, and I loved doing it, and I loved the fact he pushed me to do it. But it was a lot of rethinking of, because you don't do that in radio very often.
No.
You know, it's almost like a static single camera, pan left, pan right, whatever it is. But this was very... And I had to go back and re-watch that original series of Survivors to see how they did their camera edits. To go, you mean you want to do there to there to there to there? And it was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of work. But when you then hear it later, and also you adapt it slightly to make it work in audio because you don't have the visual cues to tell you exactly what's going on. So maybe you do half the cuts. But that was fun. And again, that was interesting because Big Finish, that was a big change for them, I think, going into uber realism. And they've always tried to mimic sounds like a rude word. Replicate what the original Doctor Who's
of course, a staser sounds like a staser.
But also particularly in some of the things like the Hinchcliffe Presents stuff.
Yes.
It's almost like you could literally be watching this. The way it's cut and edited and paced is exactly like an original show from the 70s or 80s, which is a fascinating way of doing audio drama, because again, it's not traditional BBC.
No, and it is interesting with the BBC, because they have an infrastructure and they've been the only show in town for so long. You know, actually having a proper radio studio is a wonderful thing to walk around there, because you've got those, you've got the parquet bit, you've got the carpeted bit, you've got some paving tiles, you've got magnetic tape for grass. My personal favourite, because you've got sort of your distance from the microphone, you know, all those techniques, very specific techniques.
You learn because they were needed for BBC studios.
Yes. Yeah. And the spot effects, where you've got a sort of a technician next to you doing some of the sound effects as you're playing. My particular favourite one is ice cubes in a glass, which is tiny little light bulbs in water, because they sound on radio. They sound more like ice than ice. Yeah.
They're my favourite live one ever to do. I didn't do much live Foley, recorded Foley, but stabbing. I loved stabbing into a cabbage or a lettuce. Depending on how, and whether you wet it enough to get you kind of a slurpy stabbing effect.
Yes.
And they're just
eating a lot of celery.
There's a lot of crack for bones of celery.
Yes.
But you do get lovely notes of reviewers going, "Oh, it had the most aggressive sounding, gory effects." You go, "Yeah, we killed a lot of vegetables that day."
Yeah.
Luckily, everyone has the salad afterwards. It doesn't get wasted.
Yes.
So that's always good. So
but it's great. I mean, and by contrast, it's interesting with Big Finish when you're just in a booth and it's all completely done in post. And I think increasing with Audibles, like moving into doing full cast audio dramas as well, where it is kind of, you're there in front of the microphone and it's kind of.
Well, I had to do this to you last Christmas, didn't you? Because
yes, of course.
We were working together on every year. Audible put out for their membership a free gift at Christmas, and a couple of years ago, actually, it was my Max Carados thing with Stephen, which then people liked it enough to lead to them commissioning the whole series. And then last year they came to us to ask us to do a thing with Joe Lidster, based around Victorian ghost Christmas stories, but with a kind of a storyline.
Yeah, it was like turning into a portmanteau sort of thing.
Yeah, with a little ghost story around it. And so we had the lovely Simon Callow as our narrator. Yes. And then yourself, John Banks, another Big Finish alum, who was our first ever guest. Go back and watch that one if you haven't seen it yet. And Sally Phillips came in. Basically, they were, what would you call them? Expanded straight single voice readings. So Simon read all the straight narrator bits, but then wherever there were character voices, he would be a character, and then you guys would step in and be all the other characters. And then also you were the characters in the little interstitial dramatic moments. But that was for Audible, and it was interesting doing what in the past I've only ever really done for the BBC or for myself commercially for such a big company, and it seems like they're really going down that route. I've done a couple of things for our boss Dirk Maggs. Yes,
with the Alien one. I think Alien River of Pain.
I need to get a graphic up on the screen because every episode we say Dirk's name.
Yes,
so we need a little counter up here, like the Dirk counter. So hi again, Dirk. Yes, he's the god of audio.
Yes,
he has done some great stuff, and obviously our other friend, lovely Barnaby Edwards, who we mentioned, Mr. Dalek himself, has been directing for them quite a few things.
Yes,
now.
I did one for him as well, which was. Jonas, it was called Jonah. It was this thing about a weaver in.
That's right.
Was that again a vast cast?
Was that the Apprentice thing?
The Apprentice, three
parts.
Yes, 3 parts. Yes.
Yeah.
So amazing. I was speaking at a bit of Italiano, being some bloke from some nasty banker.
But it's really exciting, isn't it? That in the UK, we now have another source of audio drama, and Audible really taking it very seriously.
And they've got a different infrastructure from the BBC, but it's there and it's big. Yeah.
And they're looking at doing a lot of it, and that's really exciting for all of us.
And I think so many people who I know as well, so like on the grassroots as well, via podcasts, are now moving into not just having two guys talking about films they like in front of a microphone. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But doing audio drama or audio comedy, so like in front of a live audience, and recording that as a podcast and then disseminating it as well.
Well, this is something I think we should be doing. I know you're always writing bits and pieces, and you've got plans for your own series. Something obviously I've done a lot of in the past, but it's something I'd like to encourage all of you out there to think about. Whether you're professional actors, narrators, producers, but don't just sit around and wait for a commissioning opportunity. The technology is out there now that you can do your own little. It doesn't have to be a massive project. It could be 2 or 3 people, and you can get a lot of sound effects for free online. There's a lot of easy to purchase music you can get with a really easy commercial license. I would suggest go out there and get on with it, really, because therein lies the opportunities, like creating a portfolio Because you could then, if it's a great idea, who knows? I mean, who thought podcasts would go as big as they suddenly went?
Yeah.
But then Serial came along, and everyone wants the next Serial. It's madness, but it's out there. The opportunities are there. So going back to you as a writer, for example. I know. We'll come back to
dipping my toe in it.
Yeah,
don't want to detract from my friends who are actual professional writers.
But your experience being the actor,
yes,
and the narrator,
yeah.
How did that feed into what you were able to put on page, ready for the studio session?
Yeah, well, I suppose I just try and write stuff that I think I would have fun doing myself.
Yeah.
I know I have a specific set of skills, but it's.
Did you write yourself into it?
Yeah, there was some bits. I mean, I wrote one last year, which was fantastic, which was for Tom Baker, for a Doctor Audio for Tom Baker, and it was amazing. It was because the cast that we had as well we had Keith Barron. It was one of the last things he did before he died. It's that thing of going, that's, you're writing something. Not only does it get made, but also you get sort of like a fantastic cast.
Were you there for the recording?
And I was there for the recording. I was basically playing a cast of, there was lots of extraneous characters, so I was doing that.
So you could fill in. Yeah.
But it was that thing of going, and it is that whole thing of like having a good actor going, oh, I hadn't heard, because I do improv. The act of like writing dialogue, it's like improvising onto the page. So I've usually got a voice in my head as to how I would do it.
Do you just straight type it, or will you record yourself into a machine?
Oh no, I'll type it. So if dictation technology got better, then I would contemplate doing that. But at the moment, I've sat in front of my computer and it's like, hotel, aubergine. Hotel, aubergine.
That's government funded. It's trying to make you eat aubergines.
Yes, but no, this is. I try and sort of. I've got a specific voice in my head as to how these characters sound to me, and then it's the joy of going, okay, my part of it, I'll clarify things if I've not been clear enough in the writing or all the technical specs and that sort of thing. But then it's over to the other actor and going, right,
so
I'm excited to hear what you're going to do with it.
Trust in your director.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's now their production.
Yeah.
You might have a part in it, but it's over to them.
And when you hear actors like taking your words off the page and putting a spin on it that you haven't thought, going, that's great.
See now, there's a part of me that wishes we could have more of that in single voice audiobook. And I've spoken to a lot of authors about the audiobook editions of their stuff over the years, and the majority will say, well, yeah, it's your version of my book, but of course the contracts and the publishers and everyone want you to just do the book as it's written, and we are allowed 1 or 2% leeway.
Typo or something,
there's a typo or something, it just doesn't work. But I would quite like to be able to definitively say this is the audiobook edition.
Yes.
And how would you feel as a narrator if you were said at the start of every project, look, obviously read the words, but if you feel the character needs to contract, for example, or expand on words, or
if it's
if you feel like that's
notes,
where
in
fact in today's recording. Because of the accent of the character you're reading, there is a tendency to say gonna instead of going to. And I wanted to allow you to say it because it fits the character, but I knew the deal we're working under for this particular book requires us to say it word perfect. So I had to keep asking you to pick it up.
Sure.
Would you appreciate that?
I would like to do the alternate take anyway, if that's possible. Then that could be approved or something.
Interesting. That's a different one. Okay, so wrap this up. What advice could you give other audiobook narrators? What things should they think about?
Oh Lord!
Is it prep? Is it read as much as you can? Listen to other people's audiobooks?
I think definitely. I like reading. I'm literate. I think
words are important in this game.
I've read enough stuff in the past that I've got a reasonably sort of broad sort of like frame of reference for things, which is always helpful. I mean, I find that with acting as well. Just knowing enough stuff, knowing about lots of random things. It always comes in useful, and when you're rehearsing a play or something, you become a bizarre expert in bizarre areas.
Well, and you are an expert actually in language, aren't you? You have a background, an educational background with various aspects of the English language, and
with historical linguistics and stuff. Philology
no, absolutely. But it's interesting because people do say, "Oh, you should read a lot. You should read." No, it's very important. Of course, you should read a lot. But actually, I say to people, you should listen a lot as well.
Yes,
because knowing how to actually say a word. So many times, and you read it one way,
and it giving you choices to actually if you can make a choice about the character, then that just lifts it off the page. But I mean, one thing I listen to lots of Radio 4 Extra and all that sort of thing. It's interesting, just like with a costume drama on TV or film, it's interesting listening to those, and you can sort of hear when it's made. sometimes.
Yeah, I
or
know
sometimes
what
you're
you
going, oh, when's that? Is that really old? And sometimes it's surprising. Oh, it was only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But other times, you can tell that's a 1970s afternoon play because everyone, there's a certain declamatory style.
Yes. Yeah.
With some of the stuff, but I mean, because I grew up listening to the Lord of the Rings, the BBC Radio Lord of the Rings, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
The BBC Radio Hobbit, which is in the
Sibley,
60s.
wasn't it?
Yeah, Brian Sibley, yes. Yeah. And that's still sort of like anchored in my mind.
Yeah.
The Hitchhiker's Guide, obviously. The original Hitchhiker's Guide.
What is there that betters it? Nothing.
Yeah. And also the Foundation trilogy. Isaac Asimov's from the early 70s, which is joyous.
Have you re-listened to it recently? Because I haven't. I found it very hard to listen to.
I do love it.
Yeah.
Because it's got performances that go up to 11.
Yes.
And then it's got the BBC Radiophonic Workshop with the very early things like, no, the Galactic Army is shelling the Presidential Palace. And it's just... And then all these performances that are really quite going up here.
It's of a time and a style, and it is a joy.
I love it.
I would dearly love there to be a new Foundation trilogy.
Yeah,
I think there are rights issues about
it's a cracking
it.
story.
Yeah, there's lots of people who are trying who would like to do it. Maybe there's a film happening, who knows, but it would be nice to do it. And in terms of when you're in a studio, do you have any particular things that you do that you need, that you require, that make it easier? Or I mean, you're a really easy guy from my perspective. You turn up, you get on with it.
I suppose it depends on the actual sort of like infrastructure of the studio.
Yeah.
But I think it's just simply, I've got my iPad that I work off. I work electronically now.
Which are trying to move everyone over to. I know it's expensive to get into initially, but boy, they pay themselves back quickly.
Yeah, and you're not lugging around loads of paper, and it's kind of like just the whole page turn thing.
And you really can. It doesn't take long to learn something like I annotate, does it?
Yeah.
And there are some people out there that I mean, going back to Lovely Barnaby, he uses it like a champ. I mean, he has embedded pronunciations and audio files, and it's astonishing how some people can use it.
Yeah.
And I think you get quite quick up with it now.
There's an investment of time that you need to put into it. But
those first couple of times it's a bit kind of, wow,
this
is, wish I just had my... And I say to a lot of people, well, still have your paper and pen next to you.
Yeah, I still have a notepad that I write down things like, and things about the plot or whatever.
No, absolutely, because that's the sort of thing that's useful to keep with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a fast note you can quickly, if you've got a pronunciation wrong, you can scribble it on the side there. But yeah, okay, so you have your iPad.
A nice chair.
Yeah, good chair.
It's warm, and then sort of like, I think just some drinks and comestibles, and sort of like...
I mean, it's like everything, just drink a lot of water and
a lot of water,
there's a nearby toilet.
Yes, yeah. And also, it's good to have someone next to you when you're starting to hypnotise yourself with the sound of your own voice. And sort of,
just hope you haven't hypnotised me at the same time.
No. I mean,
it does happen.
Because I know lots of people working for themselves now, which is great, but sort of like, I've always had sort of like someone to produce.
Or just be your first pair of ears.
Yeah, and that's completely invaluable, because you can not realise that you've made a mistake or whatever, but it's...
Or sometimes when you do have a producer, you still make a mistake. Oops, sorry, that's my fault. No, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming and being on the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for recording with us, and hopefully we're going to get you back for something more very soon.
Yes.
And anything you want to plug away and tell people to come and see you in, or do?
Yeah.
Stuff.
Come and see me do stuff.
Google Dan Starkey stuff.
Yeah, there'll be... watch the Big Finish Horizon, because I'm sure there'll be stuff that I'm doing, inevitably, that I will have recorded 5 years ago that's been released next week. So yes. Yes, The Avengers Too Many Targets, I think I'm in that. That was released in the last week. But watch Big Finish will provide.
Like it.
Yes.
Well, he's been Sir Dan of Starkey. I've been Neil the Surf, and he's been King Darwin, god of everything. So we just,
he's cruel but fair.
Rarely fair, actually. Just cruel most of the time. But he gets the work out of us. So that's it for now. We shall see you at the very next one with someone else sitting in that chair, and probably me still here. So bye.
Bye.